Two short stories by Ray Bradbury, The Silver Wind and the Golden Kite, and The Pedestrian. Once again, I would like to present them as unteachable stories. Why? Well, they are somewhat dystopian, and they are about us. The Pedestrian foretells a future, nightmarish future. People voluntarily trapped in their homes, stuck behind screens. In those days, it was television screens. Today we have supplemented the television screen with lots of other screens. Yeah, and here we are, coronavirus world, corona world, as I like to call it sometimes, or the corona drama. Everyone practicing social distancing, staying home. Really, it's nothing new. It's just more of the same with more emphasis on staying home and not engaging in face-to-face communication. And this looks to be something we're going to have to live with unless people, for lack of a better word, a better phrase, do some research, realize that they've been conned, throw away their freedoms. They don't mind so much right now, and police hardly seem to be necessary. That was also what Ray Bradbury predicted. As in The Pedestrian, he mentions that there are very few police needed. In fact, just one police car. That may be a slight exaggeration, but the point is well taken. People, especially in the Western world, embrace their own oppression and the illusion of freedom. Why? Because, yes, we have the media, keep us entertained in our homes, and we live with some of our consumerist luxuries to which we are addicted, our wine and cheese, our cars. What else do we have to learn from this fine teaching? What makes it so unteachable? Well, let's have a look at a few headlines. If we teach this story honestly and see how it applies to us, which is how literature is meant to work, might be unteachable. Let us have a look at some of the stories we might find on the internet today, out the real world. Let's have a quick look. Here we go. Thousands are starving. Protesters demanding food clash with soldiers as lockdown intensifies in Chile. Thousands starving. How many will learn about that as they watch the mainstream media? It's rather the same problem people experienced in Ray Bradbury's short story. What are they doing? They're watching garbage. One moment. Here's Leonard Mead speaking to himself, speculating about what people are watching on their televisions. 8:30 p.m., time for a dozen assorted murders, fictional, meaningless murders. Quiz, trivia, bullshit. A review, distraction, comedian falling off the stage. Hardly funny. Why does comedy have to involve doing pain to oneself? The deranged culture calls this culture. And what do those people locked in their homes know about the world they live in? Not much. Nowadays, we have people watching Netflix, dystopias on Netflix. And how ironic that they are living in a dystopia, but only paying attention to the one on the screen. I don't know how teachers teach this short story. Obviously, they must do it by ignoring the fact that they are television addicts. They are overdosing on distraction and meaningless, shallow news. Let's have a look at this little handout I have for my students. I think I've added a few inserts. Americans spend 11 hours a day with electronic media. How is that relevant to the story? And again, people are stuck behind screens. This is the development of that 1950s screen culture into the multi-screen culture of the 21st century. Are teachers exempt from this addiction? Not at all. Are students exempt from it? Not at all. How can it be taught to them? The story quite clearly portrays such people as dead people, at least brain dead. Try telling your students that. I think we should. It's time to start being honest. All these, I'm not sure why the factory farm is there, but perhaps it's because we are cattle, all stuck in our little stalls, being milked for our taxes and incomes. There's that wonderful cookie cutter neighborhood. Everyone indoors, no connection to nature, something Ray Bradbury wrote about passionately. And yet, what do our teachers do? What do students do? They learn indoors. They haven't a clue what is growing outdoors, where their food will come from, if it will come at all. I'm referring back to the story about famine, well, not quite yet, perhaps, but certainly hunger in Chile. It's an issue in other countries as well. What's happening to reading? No one is reading anymore. Perhaps that doesn't matter. Most books are not worth reading, but don't expect that to be mentioned in schools. And that is, of course, one of the messages of the book, of Bradbury's short story. Reading is going out of fashion, or if not reading, at least literature is. People still know how to read their Twitter messages. Not just reading, but understanding literature. Not so common anymore, is it? Robocops, yes, of course. Ray Bradbury foresaw that everything will be automated, perhaps including our police forces. Not perhaps, it's happening. We do have robocops or robots, robo dogs, robo drones operating here and there. Let's have a quick look at that. We can get back to the story later. No, we don't need to. On the old internet, what do we have there? One moment. Prepare. Yeah, a story about a family, I think it was in Ireland, posted today. Good old MSM. Feel sad story. Parents in Surrey condo complex are being threatened with $100 fines if their children play on a lane, sidewalk, next to their townhouses, the only place available while playgrounds remain closed. $100 fine, they are lucky. In Canada, that fine might start at $1,000. Yeah, being out on the sidewalk is no longer allowed. Welcome to Leonard Mead's world. You know, there's something seriously wrong when children are not allowed, have no place to play anymore. Children from the same family. This family can't even afford a home with a proper backyard. It's pathetic. We think we live in these advanced, developed societies. Yeah, what's developed? Technology is developed. The world certainly has not improved for children. Children's lives have not improved. All their addiction to technology is not an argument to the contrary. What else do we have here? Let's make sure I'm screen sharing this. There we go, the robot police, of course, and little image of a drone operating in the US. Well, they're all drones of a sort now, I think. Anyway, more evidence that Ray Bradbury forecast the future rather accurately for my taste. What are teachers doing about this? The fulfillment of Ray Bradbury's dystopian short story? Nothing. Can you actually teach this story and do nothing about it? That's not teaching it anymore. That's just turning it into classroom fodder. Good literature is meant to be acted upon, not just turned into lessons on metaphors and casual discussions of where technology is taking us potentially in the future. No, we're there. And it is a nightmare. Let's have a look at our second story. The Silver Wind and the Golden Kite. Funny name for a story, isn't it? A golden kite would certainly sink, crash. Silver wind would not blow far. This is a story about two towns competing for primacy, for superiority. Could it possibly have been inspired by Ray Bradbury's dislike of capitalism, an economic system in which everyone competes against everyone else? Even people in the same company competing for promotions. Would he dare, in 1953, during the McCarthy era? Well, of course he dared, but of course he also was subtle about his criticism. Not many people would notice that this is a story critical of capitalism, critical not of two Chinese towns. What did he know about Chinese towns? Critical of, well, the world generally, perhaps, but especially the heart of the capitalist world, the United States. In this story, the two towns are so busy competing for supremacy, building their walls of separation, rather like screens of separation and pedestrian. They're so busy that they neglect to take care of their food supply and their personal health. Sickness spread in the city like a pack of evil dogs. Shops closed. The population working now steadily for endless months upon the changing of the walls resembled death himself, clattering his white bones like musical instruments in the wind. Funerals began to appear in the streets. Though it was the middle of summer, the time when all should be tending and harvesting. Mandarin fell so ill that he had his bed drawn up by the silken screen, and there he lay, miserably giving his architectural orders, wall building. The voice behind the screen was weak now, too, and faint, like the wind in the caves. Isn't that where we're going now, too? We've been too busy for too long, competing to build things that have build things, to create things other than basic necessities like food. Food has become the responsibility of fewer and fewer farmers. And now that we are so busy fighting this viral boogeyman, COVID-19, our food supply is utterly neglected. And stories like the one I showed about Chile will become more and more common. I think it was a couple of weeks ago that over 10,000 cars lined up to receive, cars with people in them lined up to receive free food. That was somewhere in Dallas, in Texas, perhaps it was Houston. It's coming, and who is paying attention? We're too busy, well, if not competing against one another for money, now, or fighting against one another for money, fighting, perhaps not with weapons, just as in this story, the fight is without weapons. But now we are also fighting the boogeyman, boogie virus, and walking into some serious shit. Well, what is the solution? For someone to win the war, for us to win the war? This war cannot be won. Only losers. And the same is true of our coronavirus lockdown war. We only lose. The casualties created by the lockdown will far outnumber the casualties that this virus can claim. Peace is the solution. Let's have a read. So, said the Mandarin's daughter, you, Quanxi, will make a last rebuilding of your town to resemble nothing more or less than the wind. We shall build ours to resemble a golden kite. The wind will beautify the kite and carry it to wondrous heights. The kite will break the sameness of the wind's existence and give it purpose and meaning. Without one, the other is nothing. Together, all will be beauty and cooperation and a long and enduring life. This is a condemnation of our damned capitalist system. No, it's not recommending communism or socialism. It's recommending community, a global community based on cooperation and the creation of a world that isn't based on fear of being defeated in one way or another, conquered in one way or another by rivals. No, a world based on cooperation and harmonious living in all fronts. No more competing for dominance. You think you can't do anything good without competing. That is a sad testament to your lack of desire to do good. Because the good is itself inspiring. Parents, for example, don't need to have other parents to compete with in order to be good parents. That's nonsense. There is enough motivation to be good parents without introducing competition. And yet we operate this way economically. We think only competition can create a healthy economy. This is the ideology of someone devoted to endless conflict, competition, the creation of a world in which there are always losers and winners who are insensitive and unsympathetic towards those they defeat, exploit, use. That the world we wish to perpetuate. Like I said, these stories, like all good literature, are unteachable. They are condemnations of the world we live in. And any teacher who thinks he can teach them faithfully as the author intended would have to be at least as detached and disinterested in our world as the author was, and preferably someone who took action to inform the rest of the world what a good author is trying to say. Did a good job saying. Wonderful stories, very appropriate for our time.